Why do women seem to want the men they can't have, while ignoring the ones who make themselves completely available? And why do so many men cut off their options for women, only to end up being disrespected or abandoned in the end? That's what we're breaking down today. Welcome back to the channel, where we dig deep into the dynamics between men and women, so you can approach relationships with clarity, strength, and confidence. This topic is controversial because it flips the script. Men are told all the time that loyalty and full commitment will make a woman love them more. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Women are not wired to desire what's already guaranteed. They are drawn to the challenge, the man who isn't begging for their attention, the man who seems just slightly out of reach. That's why women want men they can't have. Now, here's the second part of today's discussion. Never cut off your options for women. The moment a man gives up his independence, his standards, and his freedom of choice just to please one woman, he loses the very edge that attracted her in the first place. She stops seeing him as desirable and instead starts treating him like someone she controls. So in this video, I'm going to teach you why women crave the unattainable, why you should never box yourself in for one woman, and how maintaining your options keeps you powerful, respected, and attractive. If you're tired of feeling like you give everything and get nothing back, this is the wake-up call you need. Let's get into it. 1. The psychology of desire. Why women chase the unattainable. One of the most overlooked truths in relationships is this. Human beings, especially women when it comes to attraction, are wired to want what they can't fully have. It's not about cruelty, games, or manipulation. It's about psychology. And when you understand it, everything about female behavior starts to make sense. Desire is fueled by scarcity. Think about it. What excites you more? Something you can walk into any store and grab at will, or something rare, limited, and slightly out of reach? The mind naturally places higher value on what isn't guaranteed. Women operate under this same principle when it comes to men. When a man is fully available, constantly at her call, and ready to give everything up for her, he removes the mystery. He removes the tension. And without tension, there is no attraction. Women are stimulated by pursuit, by curiosity, by the feeling of working towards something they haven't fully secured. This is why women often obsess over men who don't make themselves 100% available, because those men spark something primal in them, the thrill of the chase. Men often make the mistake of thinking that showing devotion and cutting off all other options is the highest expression of love. But to a woman, that often feels like the end of the story, not the beginning. The moment she feels she has you completely locked in, her desire begins to fade, because the uncertainty that drove her passion has disappeared. That's why so many women end up chasing men who seem distant or unattainable. They may complain about it, but deep down, it excites them. Now, this doesn't mean you should play games, act arrogant, or pretend to be someone you're not. It simply means you must understand that your value rises when you aren't instantly conquered. A man who is focused on his purpose, his growth, and his freedom will always appear more desirable because he cannot be fully owned by one person. He's independent, and that independence makes him a prize. The key lesson here is this. Women don't want men they can control. They want men who are slightly out of reach, who they have to continuously invest in, respect, and work for. That dynamic keeps attraction alive. So if you've ever wondered why the guy who doesn't text back right away, who doesn't bend over backwards, or who doesn't cancel his plans just to see her ends up being the one she obsesses over, it's not luck, it's psychology. He's representing scarcity, and scarcity creates desire. Once you start seeing this pattern, you can stop blaming yourself for doing too little, and realize the real issue is that you've been doing too much. Women want to earn the man they can't fully have, and that's exactly why you should never cut off your options or hand over your entire availability. The less attainable you are, the more she will want you. 2. Scarcity creates value. The power of not being fully available. If you want to understand attraction at its core, you need to grasp one powerful principle. Scarcity creates value. Everything in life follows this rule. When something is rare, people will pay more for it. When it's common, it loses its worth. Think about gold, diamonds, or even the hottest new product release. The long lines, the limited supply, the anticipation, that's what makes people crave it. Now here's where most men miss the mark. They don't realize this principle applies directly to them in relationships. When you make yourself too available to a woman, when you hand over your time, your attention, and your energy without restraint, you are essentially flooding the market. You've removed scarcity, and in doing so, you've weakened your value. Women instinctively understand this dynamic even if they don't say it out loud. The man who is always ready to pick up the phone, always waiting around for her text, or always willing to change his life just to fit hers in, loses the very thing that sparks desire. He becomes predictable, safe, and unfortunately, less exciting. Scarcity doesn't mean you vanish or play games. It means you live your life in such a way that your time is valuable. It means you are a man with purpose, priorities, and goals that come before dropping everything for her. When she knows that your attention is not something she can take for granted, she begins to respect it more. Respect fuels attraction, and attraction is what keeps her coming back. Consider this. The same woman who complains about the guy who doesn't give her all his attention is often the one obsessing over him in private. Why? Because she doesn't fully have him. That uncertainty keeps her hooked. She wonders where he is, what he's doing, and why he isn't glued to her every move. That space creates desire because she still feels she has something to prove. On the other hand, the man who lays it all on the table from day one, who makes himself endlessly accessible, unknowingly takes the edge off. She knows she has him. There's no challenge left, no pursuit, no mystery. And once a woman feels like the game is over, she loses interest. That's why scarcity is so powerful. It keeps the fire alive by maintaining a sense of unpredictability. The truth is, your time and energy are your most valuable currencies. If you give them away too cheaply, people, women included, will treat them as cheap. But when you guard them, when you move with intention, when you allow her to earn more of you rather than flooding her with it, you increase your value tenfold. Scarcity isn't about depriving her, it's about ensuring she understands that being with you is a privilege, not a guarantee. That's the mindset shift that separates the men women chase from the men they forget. 3. Why cutting off your options weakens you as a man. One of the biggest mistakes men make in dating and relationships is putting all their eggs in one basket far too early. A man meets a woman he likes and instantly he throws away every other option, cancels his priorities, and makes her the center of his world. On the surface, it looks like loyalty, but underneath, it communicates desperation, and desperation is the fastest way to kill attraction. Here's the reality. When you cut off your options for a woman before she has even proven herself, you hand over all the power. You're telling her, I've chosen you regardless of how you treat me. At first she may enjoy the attention, but soon it starts to feel heavy. Instead of seeing you as a man with standards and choices, she sees you as a man who has nothing else going on. And once she realizes she's the only option, she loses respect. Because respect is tied to the idea that you have value beyond her. Think about it like this. In business, the company with multiple investors has leverage. They don't need to bend to one investor's every demand because they know others are interested. But a company with only one investor becomes dependent, vulnerable, and easy to control. The same applies to men in relationships. A man with options carries himself differently. He's relaxed, confident, and never needy, because he knows he has choices. A man who's cut off his options is tense, anxious, and always trying to please, because he fears losing the only connection he has. Women pick up on this energy quickly. They can sense when a man's entire emotional world depends on them, and instead of making them feel secure, it makes them question his worth. They start testing him, pushing boundaries and pulling away, just to see how much control they truly have. The man with no options fails these tests every time because he's terrified of losing her. The man with options, he doesn't flinch. He knows that losing one woman doesn't define him because he isn't dependent on just one. Cutting off your options isn't just about women either. It affects your growth as a man. When you tie all your identity and purpose to one relationship, you stop building yourself, you stop exploring, learning, and expanding your world. You trade ambition for comfort, and slowly, you weaken yourself in the process. That's why men who cling to one option often feel lost and broken when it ends. They've built no foundation outside of her. The truth is, women are most attracted to men who don't need them to survive. A woman should be an addition to your life, not the entire focus of it. By keeping your options open, you preserve your independence, your confidence, and your power. And ironically, that's what makes women desire you more. 4. The attraction of independence and freedom. There is something magnetic about a man who lives life on his own terms. A man who doesn't beg for validation, who doesn't rearrange his entire existence for a woman, and who doesn't apologize for having his own direction will always command respect. Independence and freedom are not just lifestyle choices. They are qualities that make a man desirable. At the root of attraction lies respect. Women respect men who have control over their own lives, who cannot be easily manipulated, and who continue to pursue their goals regardless of who comes and goes. A man with independence communicates that he is whole on his own. He's not looking for someone to complete him. Instead, he's inviting someone to share in the life he's already built. That confidence, that sense of self-sufficiency, is what women crave but rarely admit. When a man gives up his freedom too quickly, he signals that he values her more than himself. He'll cancel his plans, neglect his hobbies, and abandon his purpose just to fit her in. At first, she may enjoy the attention, but deep down, she starts to lose admiration. Why? Because no woman wants to feel like she is the only reason a man exists. She wants to join a man who is already moving forward, not become his entire mission. Independence doesn't mean being selfish or refusing to care. It means having a life so full that no one person can control it. It means you're pursuing your career, your fitness, your passions, your friendships, and your growth. When a woman sees you living like this, she feels both drawn to you and challenged by you. She realizes she has to earn her place in your world, because you're not desperate for her to validate your existence. That subtle challenge is what fuels her attraction. Freedom also creates unpredictability, and unpredictability keeps things exciting. A man who is always available is easy to figure out. There's no thrill, no chase, no fire. But a man who prioritizes his independence creates a dynamic where she never feels like she fully has him. He's there, but he's also out there in the world, building, achieving, and exploring. That duality makes her desire him even more because he's never boring, never stagnant. Ask yourself, do you want to be the man who drops everything when she calls? Or the man she has to fit her schedule around because you're busy chasing something greater? The first man becomes forgettable. The second man becomes unforgettable. Women want to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, and they only get that with a man who guards his freedom. The truth is simple. The more independent you are, the more attractive you become. Freedom is power. Independence is allure. A man who values these things will never find himself begging for attention, because women will naturally gravitate toward him. 5. How women test men who give up too much. If you've ever wondered why women start acting differently once they feel you've given them everything, this is where the puzzle pieces come together. Women test men, not because they're evil or manipulative, but because it's instinctive. A woman needs to know if the man she's with is truly strong, truly confident, and truly capable of holding his own. And the easiest way to find out? She tests him. When a man gives up too much too soon, his time, his boundaries, his priorities, he invites those tests. She might ignore a text to see how you react. She might cancel plans last minute just to see if you'll still chase her. She might even flirt with others in front of you just to gauge your emotional control. To her, these aren't just games. They're ways to measure whether you're really the kind of man she respects or just another pushover who can be controlled. The problem is that most men fail these tests because they've already cut off their options and made her their entire focus. The moment she pulls back, they panic, they beg, they plead, they argue, or they bend even further just to win her approval. Instead of standing firm, they crumble. And the second she sees that weakness, her attraction plummets. Because deep down, women don't want to control men. They want to feel the strength of a man who won't let them cross certain lines. Now, let's flip it. A man with options, a man who values his independence, passes these tests without even trying. If she ignores his message, he doesn't chase. He continues his day because he's not dependent on her attention. If she cancels plans, he doesn't sulk. He simply invests his time elsewhere because his life is full. If she tries to push boundaries, he calmly enforces his standards, showing that he won't accept disrespect. These small responses tell her everything she needs to know. This man is not easily shaken, and this man cannot be controlled. That kind of man is irresistible. It's important to understand that tests don't stop once she's with you. They continue throughout the relationship. The longer you're together, the more subtle they become. She might question your decisions, challenge your focus, or check whether you're still as ambitious as when she met you. Fail these tests by giving up too much and you'll lose her respect. Pass them by standing strong and she'll feel more secure and more attracted than ever. At the end of the day, women don't want perfection. They want strength. They want a man who knows his worth, who won't collapse under pressure, and who continues to live with purpose no matter what. If you give up too much of yourself, you fail the test before it even begins. But if you stand firm, you become the man she can't stop respecting and desiring. 6. Keeping multiple options without being dishonorable. When men hear the phrase, never cut off your options, they often think it means juggling multiple women at once or being dishonest in a relationship. That's not the message here. Options don't always mean romantic partners. It means building a life where your world is bigger than one person. Especially if you're already in a relationship, this principle becomes even more important. Because the truth is, the fastest way to kill attraction inside a relationship is to give up everything else just to orbit around her. Here's where most men go wrong. They get into a relationship, and suddenly their hobbies disappear. Their time with friends gets cut off. Their ambitions slow down. Their lives shrink until their entire identity becomes her boyfriend or her husband. At first, she might enjoy the attention, but over time, she starts to feel the weight of it. Instead of seeing you as the confident, independent man she fell for, she sees someone who revolves around her like a planet around the sun. That dynamic destroys respect, and without respect, attraction fades fast. Keeping your options open in a relationship means continuing to invest in yourself. It means nurturing your career, staying focused on your health, chasing your passions, and building meaningful connections with other people. When she sees you have a full life outside of her, it reminds her why she chose you in the first place. You're not dependent. You're strong, ambitious, and self-sufficient. That energy is what keeps her drawn to you. Now let's be clear. This isn't about neglecting your partner. It's about balance. When she knows that your time and energy are valuable, she treats them with more respect. If you're constantly available, she takes it for granted. But if she has to share your attention with your mission, your goals, and your ambitions, she values it more. Women are naturally more attracted to men who are in demand, not just by other women, but by life itself. Think about it like this. When she first met you, she was likely attracted to the man who had his own direction. Maybe you were working on your fitness, building your career, or actively pursuing something that lit a fire in you. That independence is what pulled her in. If you lose that, just because you're in a relationship, she won't see the same man she fell for. But if you maintain it, she'll feel like she constantly has to earn her place in your world. That dynamic keeps passion alive. Keeping your options open isn't about disloyalty. It's about ensuring you never shrink yourself down just to keep a woman. The strongest relationships are built when both partners are complete individuals, not when one gives up everything just to cling to the other. By protecting your independence, you not only keep your value, you give her a reason to keep chasing you long after she already has you. 7. Building yourself. So women chase you, not the other way around. At some point, every man has to ask himself a serious question. Do I want to spend my life chasing women, or do I want to live in such a way that women chase me? The difference comes down to one thing: what you build for yourself. A man who spends all his time begging for attention, sacrificing his standards, and living only to be chosen by a woman will always struggle. He'll deal with rejection, disrespect, and disappointment because he has placed his value in someone else's hands. But a man who focuses on building himself, his career, his body, his finances, his confidence, his network, naturally shifts the balance. Instead of chasing women, women notice him. Instead of proving himself to them, they want to prove themselves to him. This isn't about being arrogant. It's about being intentional. When you invest in your personal growth, you become more than just another guy. You stand out. You carry yourself differently. You speak with confidence. You live with purpose. And women are wired to be drawn to men who have those qualities. They can't help it. It's biology and psychology working together. Women want men who are leaders, men who have options, and men who live with direction. Realistically, this doesn't happen overnight. You don't wake up one morning with everything figured out. But every step you take toward becoming stronger, more disciplined, and more independent adds to your value. The man who hits the gym consistently, builds financial stability, and cultivates a life outside of women will always be more desirable than the man who spends his nights scrolling through her social media, waiting for her attention. And here's the part most men miss. Women respect men who can walk away. If you've built yourself, if you've created a life you're proud of, you don't cling to women for validation. You know you'll be fine with or without her because your worth isn't tied to her approval. That sense of independence makes her want you even more. She sees that she can't fully control you, that she has to continuously invest in keeping your attention, and that dynamic keeps attraction alive. Building yourself isn't just about getting women. It's about becoming the kind of man who never feels desperate for them. It's about making sure your life is so strong, so full, and so valuable that women naturally want to be part of it. When you reach that level, the game flips. You're no longer chasing, you're choosing. And that is the position every man should aim to be in. The truth is, women want men they can't fully have. But when you're constantly leveling up, when you're always growing and moving forward, they'll never feel like they completely own you. That's the secret. Build yourself, and she'll always chase you. At the end of the day, women will always be drawn to men they can't fully have. It's not about playing games. It's about living in a way that keeps your value high. Never cut off your options, never give up your independence, and never shrink yourself just to keep a woman happy. When you build yourself, protect your freedom, and live with purpose, women will respect you, chase you, and fight to be part of your world. Remember, relationships should add to your life, not consume it. Stay strong, stay independent, and always remain the prize.